The South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights has decried what it says are inhumane conditions in the country's prisons. It's accusing correctional services of failing to provide protective equipment for inmates. The organization alleges some inmates are using disposable face masks for many days. To discuss this further, we're joined by Miles Bhudu, who's the president of SAPOHR. Mr. Bhudu, thank you very much for joining us on tonight's program. Do we have any idea at this point in time how many people are infected with COVID-19 in the country's correctional facilities?
Well, thank you very much for having me. We will have only to rely on what the Department of Correctional Services is releasing in terms of the numbers when it comes to sentenced, unsentenced offenders or prisoners and correctional officers themselves. And for various reasons, we decided not to take seriously the steps that they are giving us, because they are the ones that tell us, they are the ones that count, they are the referee, they are the player and the goalkeeper and the executor at the same time. But all we can say, we are in daily contact with our members, supporters and followers via the gadget, which they call a contraband, vis-a-vis a cell phone. They tell us that the numbers are skyrocketing, and they even send us pictures which we send viral, and the media is well informed that the situation is not getting better, it is getting worse. Giving you figures that come from a Department of Correctional Services would be misleading, and it would be then also giving an impression that we justify those figures and those stats, and we don't believe in those figures and those stats. That is why we are not going to give you a figure, because we might end up misleading you, misleading the viewers, and fellow South Africans as a whole.
The Department of Correctional Services has said that overall it's about 2,300 people in the sector that are affected by COVID-19. That's about 1,100 prison officials and 1,200 inmates, with 643 confirmed cases that have now been resolved in terms of a recovery. Some prison organizations are calling for awaiting trial prisoners as well as unsentenced prisoners to be released. How realistic is that request?
Well, that is what we said right from the beginning. That is almost 3 months ago. And the Department of Correctional Services has been playing hard the ball. And our advice remains that 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, and the Minister of Health, Dr. Zelim Kize, haphazardly and stubbornly decided to establish a ministerial advisory committee. That is what we call the department to do right from the beginning, so that at the end of this particular day today, whatever figures they give and whatever tragedy happens in those departments in terms of infection and ultimately those that will die as a result, that they are not alone there having to defend themselves, but having communities and civil society organizations that would tell the nation and the world that we have tried our level best to make sure that the numbers do not escalate in terms of infection and in terms of ultimately death. But all of that fell on deaf ears. And I hope that the Department of Correctional Services come to their senses sooner rather than later, that they involve some external stakeholders and call it some sort of an advisory committee, so that we all fight this pandemic, all of us, from in and outside our institutions.
Mr. Bhudu, how realistic is that, though? South Africa is one of the most violent and crime-ridden societies on the African continent. Do you think that it is realistic to release awaiting trial prisoners, unsentenced prisoners? Are you limiting that to those that are accused of not so serious crimes?
Well, look, I like and love that question. It's a very informative, educative, and intelligent question. Be that as it may, though, this is a question that must be asked to the powers that be, that is the Department of Correctional Services, because they are the ones that we have told them so many years ago. You must recall, I was released from prison in 1991, and I'm singing the same old song. It's almost 30 years. We started talking, singing, and there were commissions of inquiries, there were recommendations, and I have seen these recommendations come and gone, and none of these recommendations were implemented in terms of controlling, managing, supervising, and making sure that the overcrowding in our prisons doesn't come to a situation where we are now crying foul. I'm saying all of this because those who came and those who left, I never went, I never left, and I'm still here, and I'm still prepared from an organizational point of view that it is not too late, but we must work all together and work in terms of see how sustainable is this so-called halfway houses they say they have established. What about diversion in terms of shelters, in terms of daily reporting centers, in terms of one-stop centers? These are things that we have been screaming about for the past 20 years. Imagine if we had properly run halfway houses, properly run reintegration mechanisms. We were not going to have this foul cry. And by the way, we're not talking about the most violent criminals who are white collar, black collar, gray collar, and common law political prisoners. They are the most violent criminals. The only difference is you don't see the blood like you see the blood when somebody was raped, somebody was killed, and somebody was shot at. Now, you see those who go out and shoot people, rape people, murder people, get arrested within no time, and the law deals with them right away, instantly. These white, black, gray, and common law political criminals, it takes years to round them up, and they have destroyed not only the lives of innocent people, but destroyed the country, which is such a beautiful country that will have to be rebuilt. We must start talking about them as well. And
Mr.
also
Bhudu?
keep in mind that there are victims of crime and criminals who also want to know what happened with their rights.
Mr. Bhudu, is there not a way that social distancing can be respected moving forward, perhaps ramped up, so to speak, by moving prisoners from overcrowded facilities to facilities that haven't reached their capacity?
Well, the social distancing in prison, it's a myth. It is a fallacy. It don't happen. It can't happen because you go into a cell which is designed to incarcerate 20 people. You find 80 people there. You go into a cell where you're supposed to have one single bed. You've got, they call it scaffolds, where you've got one bed on top of the other. In other words, instead of incarcerating 10 people in a cell that was built to incarcerate 10 people with 10 beds, you've got another bed on top of the other bed. I'm not talking about one toilet, one shower, one washing basin, and it's just inhumane, and it is a breeding field for the virus and the incubation thereof.
Mr. Bhudu, the challenges within the correctional services facilities in South Africa have been long-standing when it comes to disease. Another crisis that has, of course, been dealt with in correctional service facilities is that emanating from HIV and AIDS as well as tuberculosis. Can similar strategies not be employed now to try and deal with COVID-19?
Well, look, we have read for years and years and out about the numbers of people that die in prison, whether it's sentenced or unsentenced prisoners. And then we realized over time the majority of prisoners died because of medical negligence. But then we are told they died of natural causes. Yes, it could be a natural cause, but that life could have been saved because it is a disease or was a disease that is curable. And in fact, the reason why the Department of Correctional Services has gone and get away with all of this over the many years is that there is absolutely no sympathy for people who are behind bars for the wrong or the right reasons. And by the way, we are told by those who have been here long before us that prison was never supposed to be in the business of punishment because prison itself is punishment. Now you've got a crew of correctional officers, the freeborn. They get in there and learn from the old dogs how to humiliate, how to degrade, how to alienate, and how to insult those people who make sure that they put food on the table at the end of the day tell you that the Judicial Inspectorate and Correctional Services is funded directly from the budget of the Department of Correctional Services. You know, the Judicial Inspectorate and Correctional Services is a parastatal. They lost their independence years ago. But still they do have what is called independent prison visitors, contradictory. You cannot have people that go into prison with the intention to accumulate, collect complaints and requests and demands of prisoners who are called the independent prison visitors, whereas the mother body, the Judicial Inspectorate, lost its independence 5, 6, or 7 years ago. This contradiction needs to be exposed. Correctional officers need to be made to understand that the duties, the responsibilities that they have, it's not the responsibility of a Minister of Human Settlement, a Minister of Health, a Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. It's a responsibility of human beings which, in fact, they are mandated to do two things, and that is to correct the criminal behavior, to educate, to train, to provide skills so that you get to the word rehabilitation and properly reintegrate the rehabilitated product and make sure you monitor that product so that it doesn't get lost